past my expectations for everybody who'd show up tonight. I don't know about you, Heather, but it turned out pretty nice.
Yes. All right. I'm done with saying the chair recognizes. I can tell you that I said that phrase probably 20 times in the last meeting. Okay. So we're going to talk about engaging, empowering, and advocating, because those are three. Well, it's kind of fun that the First Lady mentioned verbs specifically in her talk, because these are the three verbs that are in the Minnesota or the National PTA mission statement. And so we pull them out because we want to make sure that we address engaging, empowering, and advocating. So there's the mission statement, and you'll see that this is what I'm referring to. So this is the mission statement for National PTA as well as the entire PTA network. So all states, local units, regions, whomever we're talking about. So this is the plan for today. As I mentioned, we'll talk about these different things, but the big part's that open mic at the end. That's why I want to know, what do you need? What do you want to talk about? I'm also hoping to give some opportunity for each of you to share if there's something going really well in your PTA that you can tell other folks about in this meeting, and for them to share it with you and vice versa, because we find that we don't have a lot of space right now for local leaders to talk to local leaders and to learn from each other. So we're hoping to give you that, because I at the state level can talk to you about some strategies, but really it's those local units that have the best options. Okay, so one thing I wanted to just share with you is the definition of transformative family engagement. This is from the National PTA's Center for Family Engagement. Minnesota was chosen as one of 5 states to be part of their first grant project that they did back in 2018. And then we joined the second round. So now there's 10 states that have done this work. It's a shared effort of families, schools, and community leaders to advance programs, practices, and policies that empower every parent to make their child's potential a reality. Now, a couple things. The definition or family or parent is any caring adult in a child's life. So it's not just restrictive to parents and to families. We recognize that. And then the definition of engagement is how PTAs strengthen family connections, both to their school and to their child's education. And I think that this pandemic has really made that clear, that we have to have strong relationships between family and school for it to be successful. So these are the 4 I's of transformative family engagement. I'm not going to go through all 4 of them now. There are plenty of resources out there if you want to learn about all 4. I'm going to focus on the first one, inclusive, today. But then there's also individualized, integrated, and impactful. And when Amy and I did, we called them our road shows. I don't know what the right word is for this, but in the fall of 2018 and the fall of 2019, we traveled the state and did this workshop for PTA leaders in Duluth, Rochester, St. Cloud, and the Twin Cities. And we spent a deep dive going into each one of these with Post-it notes of like, well, what are some things that you can do that address inclusivity, individualization, integrated and impactful, and where can those things kind of cross against each other. So we'd love to do that when time comes that we can be back in person again. So here are the 3 components of the inclusive component: questioning assumptions, intentional relationship building, and inviting diverse perspectives. And I do need to let you know that our diversity, equity, and inclusion panel that we're going to have on Saturday at 10 o'clock is going to do some deep diving into each one of these and how we can, especially the intentional relationship building, that we can do that in our schools. So let's talk about relationship building. So connecting students and families to their school community. So what we need to recognize is there's the one-way communication. That's sharing decisions from the school or the district. So you as a PTA might be a conduit for your school. So this year, for an example, you might have been one of the ways that the school district communicated to their parents what learning model they were going to be in and why, right? There was no decision making to be done there as a PTA. You were just part of that communication thread. Informing policies and procedures, publicizing timelines. In my school district right now, we are in the process of hiring a new superintendent. So the PTAs hopefully have been part of the process of alerting their members that there's a survey out right now for parents and families and community members to tell us what characteristics they're looking for in a superintendent. So the PTA could be that part, but that's the one-way communication. The two-way engagement is encouraging the school or the district to set up multiple opportunities for folks to share feedback in various ways. So I'm going to go back to that example of the superintendent search. Right now it's a survey. So it's a chance for families to share feedback. The survey is translated, so we will have the ability to hear from families that may not speak English, but it is only translated in 2 languages. And we recognize that's not always going to be reaching all of our families. It's also electronic. And so talking to our school communities about, are there some folks that prefer it in a paper format, or can they access it on their phone? Is internet or devices a problem, right? So if we want to receive feedback, what are ways that we can do that in multiple ways? And then I call this enhanced teacher parent student conferences. I've been in a school system as a teacher where we had student-led conferences. So it was where the student truly led the conference and told the families with the teacher present what their school experience was like. I've also, as a parent, been in the conference situation where you're standing in line and you go talk to a teacher who doesn't quite know who your student is at the time. And it's just not a very beneficial way to do conferences. So reevaluating some of those relationship building pieces as well. I wanted to highlight an option that you have from National PTA. They have a podcast. It is a phenomenal podcast. If any of you, has anybody, yes, I'm seeing a couple people. Okay. They have great guests. I have to just tell you, I'm going to be biased here. My favorite one was the interview they did live with the National Teacher of the Year, Rodney Robinson, because I happened to be at that taping. They've taped it last year, March of 2020, when was the last time we were all together in Washington, D.C. His perspective of family engagement was so powerful and just phenomenal. It's a half-hour podcast. If you have a chance to listen to it, please do so. Some select episodes are also available in Spanish. So they really address a lot of different issues. The ones I wanted to alert you to are enhancing parent-teacher partnerships. And then there's also one called Inside the Principal's Office. So it's a principal talking from, I believe it's the National Association of Principals, talking about relationships from a principal's perspective. So this was a slide I had in August, and I was like, I'm just going to keep it in because I don't think any of this has gone away, right? One of the things so Minnesota PTA was asked at the very, very beginning of the pandemic last spring to give some feedback and to find some parents to give feedback. And the greatest feedback we received from parents was, I don't even know how to use the technology that my child's supposed to be learning on right now. So I can't support them at home in their curriculum when I don't even know how to access Canvas, Seesaw, Schoology. I hope that that's changed in a year, but really, making sure that you are helping your district understand that gap that may exist between what the parents' understanding of the technology is and what the students' understanding of the technology is, right? Teaching them how to access their grades, their missing assignments, the COVID case numbers and how that's affecting decision-making, food distribution, childcare. I'm keeping this on there because I don't know how much longer this is going to last. We are seeing more adults vaccinated, but we still don't have children in the vaccination timeline. And so this might still be something that PTAs are going to be working with their families and their parents in the fall. If schools can't go back to full in-person, depending on what our COVID situation is like. I'm going to stop here. Has anyone had any solid, really successful parent or family school connections that have either gone through your PTA or have not gone through your PTA that you were really proud of this year that you would like to share? All right. I'll keep coming back to it if anyone's got anything that they want to share. Oh, Darcy, did you have your hand up?
Yeah, I can share real quick. We of course, you want to concentrate on the parent-child and teacher-child relationships. One thing that we noticed that the teachers were really struggling, and
I
just
did that. Go ahead.
and just had a real strong sense of disconnection with the students. So we did a program where each student adopted a teacher and then we helped them as a PTA. We don't call ourselves a PTA, we call ourselves a boosters club. So we just connected with not just the teacher, but with their families, so that there was a mentorship program with the teachers' families, not just the teacher themselves. And it seemed to help a little bit. It did help a lot, I think. And it gave the kids a sense of accomplishment that they were helping more than just themselves.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you. Anyone else? Okay. All right. I'm going to move on.
Sorry, is that high school, elementary school, middle school? What level was that at?
A middle school level. So 5th through 8th grade. Our middle school goes 5th through 8th grade. And we also did a program, this was really fun, for around Christmas time, teach the grandparent how to Zoom, teach the grandparent how to say Merry Christmas or Happy Holidays over Zoom. And it was really fun because the kids taught the grandparents. It was this kind of a fun over the break thing to keep everybody connected. It worked too, because a lot of those grandparents were pretty happy to have a listening session. It's good.
Heather, we have a comment in the chat from Kara from the North Shore Community School up in Duluth, my hometown, that says our PTA did a story walk for our school and it went really well. The teachers sent their classes through it. So I don't know if you want to say any more about that, Kara, but that sounds great. Lots of great ideas. Thanks.
Great. Thank you. I keep moving on my screen, so I keep accidentally muting and unmuting other people. So my apologies if I do that to you.
Yep. And I see Heather and I'm supposed to be doing the tech part. I see now Rachel, and I believe Rachel's from Rochester, right? Maybe, yes. Which is where I live now. Rachel has her hand up, Heather.
Oh, I'm sorry. Rachel, go ahead.
Yep, at Washington Elementary in Rochester, my son's doing distance learning this year, and he got paired, his teacher's at a different elementary school. And so he was feeling really disconnected from his home elementary. And our PTA ended up talking to the principal and working out that the principal and several of the staff members of the school would have a lunch with each kind of grade level once a week in the distance learning. So the principal would get on and he'd do a Kahoot a lot of times about one of the staff members. And then you'd guess who the staff member was, or you'd guess different things about the staff member. Anyway, he'd play bingo and just let kids share things. So it really united the kids back with the staff members when everyone was distance learning too, and gave them a chance to see like their friends and classmates. Anyway, that was one of the things the PTA had kind of initiated. So that worked well.
Great, thank you. So let's talk about advocacy now. Kathy's doing a full advocacy workshop. I'm pointing next door, like as if she's next door. All of these workshops, by the way, are being recorded. So after the fact, you'll have access to them. So if you want to do a deeper dive into advocacy, you can go ahead and watch her recording later after the convention's over. So one of the things that I think, a couple things. Sometimes people hear the word advocacy and get really frightened off. And there's what I call big A advocacy and little a advocacy. The big A advocacy is the kind of like the formality of what we went through with Robert's Rules of Order to get our bylaws approved in the last thing. When you're testifying at a state level or a national level, or you're talking to a leader at that level, it can be a lot more formal. The little a though is when you're talking to your school board, your principal, your administration, and advocating for the kids there. It shouldn't be scary and it shouldn't be hard. And so one of the things that we encourage PTAs to do is how can you help your parents have a voice in the decision making in their school district, and how will parent feedback be used now and in the future? And encouraging like consistent communication in multiple ways for families to share their input. So one school did a virtual coffee with the principal. That was before things were back in session, and it was just an opportunity for parents to pop on and say, oh my gosh, I can't remember his name. Dr. Andy's his first name. I can't remember his last name, but he would do that and just encourage parents to come and share their concerns and what was important to them. And then coaching parents on effective advocacy. So I'll kind of give you an example of this in the next slide. So it's
Andy Volmuth. It's our school.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I couldn't get off
Andy,
mute. Yep, Andy Volmuth.
Thank you. So stories give data a soul. So when we talk to leadership, they often say like, well, it's fine to hear, X percentage of parents, blah, blah, blah. But to have a story attached to it really helps. So for example, this was an example I used this fall. Schools were sometimes requiring students to share their faces during synchronous learning. And a parent wants to advocate for their students to be allowed to turn off their camera. So you could say that I, as a parent, have 3 students distance learning from home in addition to 2 working from home parents. And this is a true story. Last Tuesday at 10:30 a.m., all 5 of us were on synchronous meetings and our internet couldn't keep up. By turning off the cameras, our internet, was able to handle the bandwidth better. There was also the situation in our family of a person would have a camera on and they'd be at the dining room table near the kitchen, and everyone in our family just felt uncomfortable then going to the kitchen, our own kitchen, right? Because you were afraid you're gonna be on camera. So sharing these stories, because sometimes at decision-making level, they're just thinking, well, we want students to be engaged, or we want students to show that they're actually physically there. And it's like, well, but have you thought through some of the unintended consequences of the decision that you're making, right? And in many cases, it's just that it hasn't been thought through. Okay, so any more successes or challenges before we move on?
I'll say about the only success I feel like we've had as a PTA since COVID started is we learned that when everything first went virtual, we learned that some students didn't have headphones, and we did a headphone drive.
Okay.
So we just asked parents to drop off, if they were willing and able, to drop off some extra pairs of headphones. And then we worked with the teachers who knew better than we did who needed the headphones, and were able to get those distributed. And that was really well received by some of those families.
That's fantastic. Thank you. All right. So this is new. This just came out end of March. It's going to be a 10 video series from National PTA. They've currently only put out 3. They're each about 10 minutes long, and it's about 10 minutes to PTA the transformative way. So the first 3 are talking about bias, talking about language inclusivity, and talking about microaggressions. And I have to tell you, I watched the first one and was just blown away. It's a PTA leader from Kentucky who gives very personal examples of bias, and it's phenomenal. And then the language inclusion is a PTA leader in Florida. What I really love about this too, these aren't national PTA board members that are doing these videos. These are folks like you. They're local leaders who have a passion for making sure that our PTAs are inclusive and are welcoming all families, and to talk about some of the hard, challenging topics that are in front of us right now. So if you have a chance to look at those, please do so. And this slide deck too with the links, I'll make sure that you have access to that as well. But if you just Google PTA 10 minutes to PTA transformative family engagement, you'll find it. I need to do slides better. There's too much wording on this, but this is just talking about community building. So one of the things that I think has been the most challenging from a PTA perspective is how on earth do you build community when you can't be in the building, right? How many of you have had to rethink your carnival or rethink your movie night, or rethink your bingo activity, or your family reading experience, whatever it might be. So these were some options of how to turn things that were typically in person to virtual. So I'm curious from you guys, what things were you able to convert from what used to be an in-person experience to a virtual experience that went well? Go ahead, Jackie.
Our PTA put together kind of towards Halloween. It's normally they did a fall festival dance or whatever at the school for all the kids and a rally. This year they ended up hiring a DJ who did a video DJ dance party where families could stream it. And so each family got to be together in their own homes and participate in this huge dance party that the school was putting on.
That's awesome. I remember seeing photos of that on Facebook from those families. That's awesome. Lucy.
Hi. So we were able to do right before the readathon. Normally we'd have an author come for kindergarten to grade 2 and then have grade 3 to grade 5 author come. We were able to get a random author that would have never come to Rochester, Minnesota. And so that was really nice. We didn't get as many parents as we would have liked to online, but it was really nice to just be able to offer that. And then at the PTA meeting, everybody was a little bit disappointed, deflated by the lack of participation. And then the principal said, that was more than in person last year. So we did good. And there's an activity that we've got planned coming up for the end of school, where we've hired a STEM company from Philadelphia to do video for half an hour, and that'll help the teachers out to celebrate the end of the year, I hope. So that's the exciting part for us here at Sunset Terrace, Rochester.
Thank you. Jackie.
Yeah, so we typically do a movie night every year at in our big school gym. And obviously we couldn't do that this year, and we were able to pay for a virtual stream of a movie, and our PTA put together little snack packs to send all the kids, where it was microwave popcorn, a bottle of either hot apple cider or hot chocolate and candy. And we had it at a scheduled time of 6 o'clock, like what it did at school. So everybody got to watch the same movie at their house at the same time, even though we weren't able to be together. And I think the kids were more excited about the snack pack than the movie itself.
That's awesome. Deborah, is there anything in the chat that you'd like to highlight?
Yeah, so we have Rachel again from Rochester. They've invited speakers from the district to their virtual PTA meetings, and then attendance at the virtual PTA meetings is better than in-person ones. So maybe people are finding it a little bit more convenient. And of course, as I mentioned, I am from Rochester, and our district staff is very willing, I think, to attend individual PTA meetings when invited. And sometimes they can be a real great draw, especially when they're on hot topics, right? Facilities or curriculum or etc. Let's see what else. Oh, we got another drive-in movie. And that looks like it. So thanks for sharing, everybody. Let's keep going.
Awesome. All right. And I think Darcy mentioned something about a magician that they had in their school. Oh, let's talk about meetings. All right, so I've gone to a couple PTA meetings across the state as president to try to help some PTAs, with their struggles. And, sometimes the PTA meeting is not the most welcoming, awesome environment that it can be, right? So they need to be effective, they need to be impactful, they need to create connection, and they need to encourage a collaboration. So when you're having a meeting, and again, this is hard virtually, but finding ways for for members to meet members, and for members to meet the principal, and for members to meet the teachers. And, you know, all those connections should be made as part, that should be an intentional part of your meeting. Okay. Encouraging collaboration, connecting families together to work on an advocacy issue, right? Impactful, find things at your PTA to talk about, to discuss, and to work on that are going to be impactful to your school community. I think sometimes as PTAs, we get stuck in the like, well, this is what we've always done. This was on the agenda last November, we're going to do it this November. Without really asking yourselves, do we need to do that anymore? Is it really an important part of our school community? And making sure that when the families attend your meeting, they're getting something out of it that they couldn't have gotten by not attending, right? So for example, today we're so excited that you all were able to join us. Anybody that wasn't here tonight will not be able to see and hear what the First Lady spoke about, and they will not be able to hear what our national rep spoke about, because we did not record those two presentations. That was very specifically for folks that came tonight. So if there's a teacher or an administrator, somebody that can give a presentation that is specific to the people that came to your meetings, then the meetings are worth folks' time. Also pay attention to when you're having your meetings. If they're exclusionary, if they're at noon, probably not the greatest time frame to be having them, right? Where are you having the meetings? It should be most likely in your school building somewhere. Please do not be having PTA meetings at a bar, please. Please don't be having PTA meetings at the president's house, right? We have to be very thoughtful and intentional about how we're running our meetings. And Darcy, I kind of want to address what you're talking about with, you've got folks in your school community that the words PTA bring forward something that's not positive. I appreciate that you want to use different wording, and I'm not here to tell you that I'm not the PTA police. I'm not here to tell you that you can't, but I would actually prefer to work on changing the reputation of the wording of PTA so that people see it as something valuable, right? And it might be looking at some of these practices that we have in place to make that true. Lyra, do you want to go ahead?
It's Lyra, actually.
My apologies.
That's okay. So you said the noon meeting, and that's unfortunately what we've always done. We talk about the evening, but then it's, well, we don't want to bother district people then. But our thing is we've tried some of this, especially with like the virtual meetings, is we've tried to get people to come, and we're like, we're going to walk you through step by step. How do you as a parent check Canvas to be able to see how your student is doing? How do you as a parent navigate Member Hub? We've done, it feels like a lot of walkthroughs like that, but we're down to 25 members. And how can we get, you know, we know that we're offering something valuable and something that people need, because we hear from other members in the community, oh, I wish I could learn how to do that. We send the link and nobody shows up.
Yes. I think everybody here can nod their head and say, yep. Right. Yeah. So you're not alone, which I know doesn't help, but you're not alone. I do want to address one question, because you're mentioning you've heard from folks in the community that this is what they're looking for. Have you surveyed your school community to ask them what they want from their PTA?
You know, we haven't done a formal survey for a little bit. Where I have gotten what people want to see is actually in, we have like a community-wide Facebook group for different grade levels and different parents. And so I put out there that I'm on the PTA. What are some things you're looking for? And that's where I'm finding people saying that. So I'm already reaching some people who are kind of tech savvy. But we've also done some partnering with, we have a really good interfaith outreach, IOCP, in our community. And we've reached out with them and we've asked, how can we partner and how can we show ways that people who may be less familiar with the computer or have harder access issues, how can we get them to be able to have the tools that they need for getting during this time or getting through this? And, you know, we're still struggling to try and bring in people outside of this like 20 core group and a few people off of Facebook.
Yep. Yes, it is a challenge. We're seeing that in many places. So no, you're not alone. And but keep reaching out. I mean, from what I'm hearing, you're doing the right things. You're reaching out to the right groups. I think utilizing your principal as much as possible, or any other school staff that can do some outreach on your behalf too. That would be really good.
Thanks.
Yes. What other successes or challenges from a meetings perspective? Deborah, do we have anything in the chat?
Hang on, sorry. Nope, nothing
Okay.
new.
How about Lucy, go ahead.
I always lose the mute button, sorry.
Okay.
So the problem we're going with is, well, with Member Hub, by the way, Member Hub has been very good to us. We were able to ask for help instead of having staff or parents bake something, seeing as we can't bring anything here in Rochester to the school that for the teachers, like homemade stuff. We asked the parents to help with donations. And so we were able to use the Member Hub donation section, and that helped out a lot. We got a couple $100 out of that. That was really cool. But what I was going to say was the problem we're having now is the treasurer is leaving, and I'm the VP. And so now we're down to 3 people, but we have 20 people. So I know that even if we have people on the virtual meeting, it's not the same as doing it in person too, just because you get to see things differently. So that's a concern. So that's why we were happy with the convention this weekend. So maybe we can get ideas and change ideas.
Heather, I'd just like to speak to Lucy a little bit. Well, I always love to speak to Lucy because I love Lucy, but you know, I don't know how well your I couldn't be in your breakout room, your you know, icebreaker thing, but maybe that's something for units to explore, is trying to use some breakout rooms and small groups to continue to build those relationships, because it, you know, it is really hard. You know, if you're lucky enough to have 20 people in your PTA Zoom meeting, you know, sometimes just maybe breaking it down might help too, and just having you know, little conversations like we would have if we were in person.
Yeah, good point, Deborah. Yep.
Great. All right, I'm going to move on to one other thing because we are running short on time, but I don't want to cut off your conversations. Here's the membership platform, membership. You know what I'm talking about. I'm short on words right now. Okay, so here's the other thing about membership. So I have to tell you, Minnesota PTA across the board has had a huge dip in membership this year. We are not unique. Every state has had a huge dip in membership. So it's just something that we were seeing for several families. PTA was one of the last things on their list of priorities, right? We even saw this from principals, especially back in the fall. The principals were like, PTA, I love you. I don't have any bandwidth for you. Come talk to me in November, right? And it wasn't because they didn't value what the PTA had to bring to the table. It was just that they were so overwhelmed with everything going on. So we saw that with parents too, right? Is like they're trying to work and have kids doing distance learning, or maybe they're going to hybrid now and you got to drive them there and back because the bus has an exposure aspect to it, right? Lots of things. So we're hoping that next year, with a little bit more solid footing, we'll see some membership growth come back. However, it won't matter if we're in a pandemic or not. If these questions can't be answered, you will not get people to join. Why should I join? What's in it for me? What's in it for my child? And what's in it for my school? And we find PTA leaders tend to join PTA for their kid, and they stay for the other kid, like for all the rest of the school building, right? They get hooked into, oh, I can do something good for all the kids in my school community. It benefits my child specifically, but it benefits them all, right? So you have to show your value first. You have to gain trust. And I think Tracy mentioned this in her her speech today. You have to toot your own horn, because I think some PTAs do a lot of great work that families don't even know are coming from the PTA. They just assume it's the school or the district or something. And it's like, well, actually, no, we put a lot of work into that, right? They're looking for connection, and PTA can be that connection. And I think I wonder from all of you, how many of you have relationships that you've built through PTA that keep you coming back to PTA, right? Have you made friends? Are there relationships there? Do you have a stronger relationship with the principal or the teachers that keep you there? My first PTA meeting, well, not meeting, my first PTA experience was with our early childhood director, who was phenomenal at explaining to us as parents why on earth we were losing a paraprofessional in a particular classroom. And that got me hooked to like, oh, we need more money in schools, right? But it was that relationship that really made me go, this can be a really powerful thing. I think I just thought that we're getting the hook here pretty soon. So I want to go to my last slide. There's a lot of different ways that you can work on membership, but again, just having membership available, even if it's free, is not going to make people join if they don't see the value, right? So, because we sometimes get that question about, well, but there's the barrier of the financial piece of a membership having a financial cost. Okay, remove that cost, and if they still don't see the value, it's not going to matter. Okay. Anything else in the 47 seconds that we have left? I am more than happy to talk to any of you at any time about any of this. Give me until after Saturday. Give me until after Sunday. I need to recover. Monday, I will talk to anybody on Monday or beyond about if you've got anything specific you want to work on, if you want to go into deeper dives about any of this. Amy, who I think was on the call, might not be on the call. She's going to be your new president come June. She's really steeped in this work too. Darcy, if you want to connect again, because I don't think I quite got to your concerns and your questions. This is we're passionate about it. We want to do the work the right way, and we want to help you do that work too. Okay. All right. We're going to get kicked out of here in 4 seconds. I'll see you in the big room.
Now that's cool. It just goes.
It's so fun.
Hello.
We haven't lost too many people, so that's good.
That's good. It is bedtime now, so I know some folks got to go put kids to bed. I now have a 12-year-old, 16-year-old, and 18-year-old, and bedtime's kind of just a concept over here.
Mm-hmm.
They go to bed when they go to bed. They wake up when I force them out of bed. Although I do not want to go back to the infant days when they were awake at 6. That's not my jam. All right. So here's what we're going to do, because we've only got 3 minutes left, and I want to get you out of here as close to on time as possible. I don't even think I'm going to share my screen. I think I'm just going to wing it, but I got to find the right slides. So give me a moment. Okay. We have 2 more days of the convention. I hope you found today informative, eventful. We passed 5 amendments in less than an hour. That is like awesome. We elected our new leadership, which I know felt like we elected leadership. Okay, we're moving on. But the celebration of our new leadership will come on Saturday when they get installed. It's going to be super awesome. The National PTA President, Leslie Boggs, whom the video didn't work today, I will try to get her video to work on Saturday. She will actually be here on Saturday to install our new officers. So here's what I want to tell you about tomorrow. Tomorrow is going to be more, we're trying to recreate the happy hour feel tomorrow, okay? So the first half hour of tomorrow is going to be some more icebreakers like I did today, and a reflections update. So for those of your schools that participate in the reflections program, that's the arts program, our reflections chair, Lori Ortega, is going to be here to give an update on our state winners. I don't know if any of our state winners are national winners. One time, you guys, Minnesota had 5 national winners from our state. It was pretty amazing. And so she will be here tomorrow. Then we're going to do workshops from 6:30 to 7. You'll have 3 to choose from. They are sustainable fundraising, brains, budget, and technology, and ensuring your PTA. And I just have to speak to the insurance one really quick. You know, a lot of people are like, insuring your PTA? I have heard from other states, it's a really, really well done workshop. So just don't let that scare you off. And then we're going to do networking. So starting at 7 and we'll end anytime between 7:30 or 8. It's going to be truly just you connecting with other local leaders. I want to recreate as much of that connection as we can that we would normally be doing in a in-person setting. Okay. So come tomorrow, it'll be a little bit shorter. It'll be a lot of fun. Then Saturday, we start at 9. And the Commissioner of Education will be kicking us off with her speech. And then we will do business meeting part 2, very short. We just have to approve our financials. Then we will have a 45-minute long diversity, equity, inclusion panel. We've got 4 people that are going to be coming talking about that. Then we'll have workshop number 3. You'll have 3 choices there: equitable fundraising, governance, and leadership. And then we will install our officers and we will be done with our convention for the year. So there's still a lot to do, a lot to go. We would love to see all of you on both Friday and Saturday. As I said at the beginning of this meeting, if you remember, I had a slide that said this convention's for you. So if there's something that's missing, if there's something you want a deeper dive in, if there's something that we can address, let me know, and we will either try to address it within this convention or we will address it after the convention is over. Any questions? I'm looking at my board. I'm looking at anybody, anything else that we need to address before we go? This was fun. This was really fun. I had a great time. I'm looking forward to seeing everybody tomorrow.